Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub, coming off of a weekend that was less than ideal against Minnesota, but we're here to focus on the upcoming matchup against Notre Dame. And I went ahead and brought in somebody who I've been trying to get on the show for a while, and it was my mistake. I had something come up the last time we were supposed to get him on, but we have Jacob Phillips here with Impact. Jacob, how are you doing?
Doing good. Excited to finally be on the show, and always love talking Michigan State hockey.
Yeah, so how long have you covered the team now? Has it been a couple of years?
No, this is actually my first year
First year?
covering Michigan State hockey. I've bounced around. I bounced around a little bit last year, kind of cut my teeth in volleyball, and then eventually moved up to baseball in the spring. And now I'm very glad to be with hockey for the season.
Yeah, I think I had followed you, and I it's tough to keep up with who's covering what, but I keep tabs on baseball as well, so that may have been where it came from. But let's just dive in. Being a first time guest, I'd like to just hear your thoughts on what you think so far. Just big picture. You can be as broad as you want or as specific as you want on how Michigan State's hockey season has gone 2 point so far this year.
I think it's been able to surpass expectations a long time ago. I think this
Yeah.
season has gone much better than everyone sort of expected. And what's really interesting to see is honestly coming off of this weekend, tough loss to Minnesota. And for Michigan State, yeah, it hurts to see, but you're also thinking this is a world where Michigan State, like you actually have hope that the team could beat Minnesota at least once, which
Yeah.
is not somewhere I feel like the team has been in the past few years, at least as long as I've been on campus. So it's really interesting to see how expectations drastically shifted from the start of the season to now. And it's a good thing. It really is.
And that, I keep trying to paint big picture. This takes a while, all that, but it's incredible in year one that it's February and we are still talking about having something to play for. The past,
Yeah.
golly, maybe what 8, 10 years, we have not that has not really been the case. I think there's like one good year with Jake Hildebrand when they were around a 500 team for a while and lasted a little bit into the season, or I guess into the new calendar year for the season. But overall, I think it's been good. I think that Dylan St. Cyr has been a great addition to the team, and he's won some games for Michigan State. Overall, he's been good. Last weekend, his numbers didn't look great. I don't think that was all on him. Um, that Minnesota team's just so damn good, man. They're just so good. Now, the team that Michigan State's about to face this weekend, Notre Dame. This team's 13-12-3. 8-8-2 in the Big Ten. A similar team to Michigan State on paper in a lot of ways, right? Similar record, similar success so far. Um, Not a ton of like elite NHL type prospects like we saw in Minnesota, like we see on the roster at Michigan. Um, a closer team to Michigan State than we saw last weekend. What have been your takeaways from what you've seen from Notre Dame so far?
I think there's a couple things. Notre Dame, while their records and everything seems similar, especially I know their power play and penalty kill stats are also similar to Michigan State. Their play style really isn't. They are a
Yeah.
lot more of a slower, more physical team, and they've kind of got the size to take advantage of that. But their goalie, Ryan Bischel, has also been really a rock of that program, especially recently, getting some really good splits in with some high quality teams. Ryan Bischel has really stood out as one of the key elements, and it always seems almost every goalie in the Big Ten is going to be tough for Michigan State to get around. But like we saw 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, actually against Penn State with Liam Tullier, it's possible.
Yeah, and he has been strong in that. His record's 13-12-2, a 928 save percentage, 2.48 goals against. Um, a, has really kept them in a ton of games, especially a team that Notre Dame's not going to light up the scoreboard, right? They're going to rely on their goalie quite a bit. Their backup, Jack Williams, is actually a Michigan State commit at one point. I believe he's a freshman this year. He's only seen parts of 2 games. 889 save percentage. Nothing to take away there. That it's kind of a one-man show in the same manner that Michigan State's a one-man show. We did see Pierce Charleston a little bit. His statistics have not been great. He also just hasn't been put in a great position so far this year. Off the top of my head, and jump in if I'm wrong here, I believe it's 2 cleanup duties and 1 start against Long Island. Does that sound right to you for Pierce?
I know he got a start against Long Island. I don't know if he saw. I want to say he might have seen action during the GLI,
Okay.
potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
a game in the GLI, like cleanup wise at least.
Right.
Um,
But either way,
yeah,
it's been a small sample size for both of the backups. So we're really focusing on just the starters here. Who would you say has the edge in goal between these two teams? It's close.
It's really tough. I think what gives, I'm going to say Dylan St. Cyr gets the edge in my opinion, and it's for a couple of small reasons. I think he is easily one of the most athletic goalies in the Big Ten. I mean, you look at that one absolute robbery against Minnesota in Game 2. And I don't know many other goalies in college hockey that could have made something like that, where he's reaching back. And, I mean, the puck doesn't cross the red line by pixels on the TV screen.
Yeah.
So really impressive effort from Dylan St. Cyr. But really what gives Michigan State, in my opinion, as a whole, the edge is the fact that this time they're playing at home, and that has always had such a dramatic effect on this team. We've seen just going up against really multiple top 10 teams, pretty much every Big Ten team that's not Minnesota that has come to Munn has really been sort of humbled. And I think that is really, what gives Dylan St. Cyr an edge this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that that's a good way to look at it. Now, some of their better players that they have, Ryder Rolson's a guy who is he could maybe have a chance at the NHL. His draft rights are owned after being traded from Colorado to Chicago. Probably more of an AHL type player, but a talented player. In the first go around against Michigan State, he put on a show. Really looked to just get wherever he wanted to on the ice at times, and I think he's probably one of the players that Michigan State's really going to have to watch out for. He's the leading. He leads the team in points, 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points. Is there any other players on Notre Dame that jumped out to you right off the bat?
Not really. And I really haven't done a whole lot of due diligence in terms of looking at Notre Dame's entire roster.
Yeah.
But it's that more slower paced style. So
yeah,
I don't really see many other specific players standing out aside from I think it's going to be.
That's exactly the point I want to make. Yeah, that's the point I want to make. Is they're not a collection of high-end talents that are doing individual things to create offense. It's more of the style that we've seen at times in the past with Michigan State, almost, right? I think that they're a better team than the teams that we've seen recently with Michigan State, but kind of that style where just about anyone can score a goal, and they're usually not going to be too many like pretty goals. But it is a good team here, and it's a team. This weekend is so important for Michigan State. They want to keep their tournament hopes alive. It's getting less and less each weekend, but still possible, still statistically possible. And of course, once you get into the Big Ten tournament, if you win that, then you're good. But what is your prediction for this week? And before we get into that, you mentioned something earlier about the special teams being similar, and I wanted to read those stats off. Notre Dame's power play is 18.2%. Michigan State's power play, 17.9%. Notre Dame's penalty kill, 76.8%. Michigan State's 80.4%. Very similar in a lot of statistics. Going up against each other this weekend, what is your prediction?
Really, like I said earlier, I would have to give Michigan State an edge in both games because that crowd, especially in the second half of the season, especially and since Big Ten play started, has been so impactful on the attitude and the ability of the team to play up to a lot of tougher opponents. Notre Dame is not the toughest opponent that they've played at Munn this season. They will not be the toughest. And if they can play the kind of hockey that we saw them play against Penn State or Ohio State when the Buckeyes came to Munn Ice Arena, then I would say Michigan State has a good chance to sweep. And then, and that's pending as long as nothing goes wrong, like no ejections or injuries, as always, for both teams. But I really think this is one of the most sweepable series that Michigan State has to close the year out. I mean, you're talking about next Michigan, probably some of the toughest hockey you'll see them play. And then Wisconsin in Madison, they've been able to pull off some pretty interesting upsets. Yeah. So hosting Notre Dame is definitely, in my opinion, the best chance that Michigan State has to sweep one last team and try and fight for that fourth seed in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and I also think that a sweep's on the table here. I mean, I think that Michigan State's played well enough to win several games that they've lost recently. It's kind of been I don't know if skid's the right word, but they did have a couple big wins recently. But they know that their tournament chances are on the line here. This is a team with a lot of seniors, a lot of grad transfers, a lot of people. This is kind of their last push, maybe their last opportunity. I think that they're going to have the crowd behind them and know what's on the line here. And it's going to be just a hell of a series regardless. I'll go with the sweep as well. Let's just do that. Let's see a sweep this weekend, get a bunch of momentum heading to play Michigan. Michigan's been playing really well. They're starting to kind of come together a little bit. Their record doesn't show it. I saw a tweet that they were, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast with Sam, that they're like fourth in the pairwise and fifth in the Big Ten, which is just hilarious and speaks volumes of just how good the Big Ten has been this year. So that's a big weekend. Then at the end, I mean, those Wisconsin games in Madison are going to be tough. It's very possible that Michigan State could be playing for something there, more than just battling for, like we've seen in the past, kind of, are we going to get last place or second to last place in the Big Ten, right? It could have more on the line than that, so that's going to be exciting to watch. We're running down here towards the end of the season. The Big Ten tournament is right around the corner. Still plenty to play for. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us today, and tell everybody where they can find your work, your podcast, your whatever else, and Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, all my work is on Impact's website, impact89fm.org. And yeah, I'm also on Twitter, capital JDP in JD Phillips 125. I know it's a little bit confusing, but it was tough for me to find an actual Twitter username that.
Let me see. I think I can help everybody out here a little bit. Let me see if I can share the screen. No, I can't. Oh, wait up here. Here we go. Can you see it?
Yep.
There we go.
There it is. At JD Phillips 125.
You can see a little bit of Seinfeld up here in the corner. I like that a lot. Looks like Festivus there. So go out and find Jacob. And thank you so much for joining us this week, everybody. Let's hope for a sweep, right? And go green.